The Local Show, sponsored by Victory in Motion, home of knee repair, not knee replacement, on NewsRadio 570 WSYR, on 106.9 FM, and live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. The Local Show features in-depth conversation with business owners, employees, and influential business leaders throughout Central New York, exploring their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in our growing community. The Local Show is produced locally by Zoe Advertising. Now your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Back in the saddle again. It is The Local Show. That's what you tuned into, and we thank you for stopping by. A lot of people like to hear about local businesses and what's happening around town and how things are growing.
I laugh, but I appreciate our listeners because we're always running into them.
Sure.
You know, and you think, okay, I mean, it's nonstop. I think I shared this before. I was in line at a bakery one day, and I said, I got the donuts. They go, how's your voice? Who are you? I'm like, Steve Roberts. They're like, wait a minute, you were that. They didn't say that other idiot. They said, you guys, you did that thing. And we
That's
appreciate the
yes.
level that they're engaged. And
well, you never know where you find people that are avid listeners. And I just made a deal with a new vehicle, and turns out that the general manager up there at Burdick Ford in Central Square is a big fan of the show and of WSYR in general. So
well, there are 84,000 listeners, and there's a lot of people.
There are,
and they listen. So when we talk, sometimes we're better than other times. We all know sometimes we're right. Exciting, sometimes not that exciting, but people are engaged to talk. So even the commercials aren't interruptions; they're listening to talk. It's not music. Put a commercial on, change the station. Right. But now it happens a bunch. We appreciate our listeners.
Yes, we do. All right, David Zwolinski is here with us right now. We're going to find out all about him and his business. He's the owner of SOS Roofing. How are you, David?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Good, buddy. Good. So, David, how long have you been in the roofing business in general?
So, 22 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 22
He's counting.
years now.
Did you start the SOS concept?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So what did you do prior to that? Because I think you're older than 22 years old.
So I was actually an ITIS, and that's...
And it is
a little bit more. Yeah, it is. And I enjoyed that profusely. But it was technology, in other words. Primarily computer technology.
Were you a coder, a database developer? Or
I worked for a local bank, Pathfinder Bank.
Oh, no kidding.
I know somebody that works there.
Oh, yeah?
His wife.
Yes, my wife's a manager there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which branch?
She's the Cicero branch.
Cicero wasn't around when
you were there?
We started.
It's just a swamp.
I think we only had 4 branches at the time.
No kidding, yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, but the unfortunate part was I worked every night. So my 21st birthday, New Year's Eve every year.
Wow.
We were sitting behind a computer as opposed to doing what all the kids do and going out partying. So you sacrifice a few years of your life doing that, and you want to change. So
how do you make the leap?
Yeah, well, and you had a degree then in computer science? Or?
So yeah, we
or have a degree.
Going to both, yes, and the jump was actually pretty easy. I got into rentals, and I was putting a roof on for one of my rentals with the help of one of my friends, and they said, hey, another neighbor said, can you put one on for us? Well, yeah.
How hard can that be?
I guess so. And then from there, next thing you know, a friend and I kind of jumped into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, since then, I went solo. And
so the process, so you're a logical, fairly analytical guy. There are steps. There's a standard operating procedure to anything IT and technical. There's the same thing when it comes to a roof. So different everything, but when you have excellence in a process, and we don't do this until we do that, it kind of carries over into roofing, doesn't it?
Well, it's a simple model like Charles Babbage did. Input, process, output.
Okay.
So it's as long as you're putting in the amount of effort, you're going to get an output that is equal to the amount of effort that you're putting in, and that's where we've been pretty successful. We put a lot of effort into things, and we get a good outcome usually.
From a business standpoint, though, you must have done your due diligence and felt that there was a gap in the market or something that this could be lucrative, as opposed to what you were doing.
It's funny. When you're stuck behind a desk all the time, and then you get out and you do something, and you're like, man, this feels like more freedom. I feel the weather. The sun is on my face. You know,
I get you.
And it's like, yeah, it might be very, labor intensive, but at the same time,
made you feel alive.
Yeah, you get a little feeling of life.
Okay,
more control too.
Yeah, you amused me last time, and I have to ask the question again. What is SOS? What did it stand for? Because it was such an analytical IT guy.
Strategic Optimal Solutions.
Yeah,
that's catchy. But it is SOS. The SOS that we know, it totally makes sense because I got to get a roof. I got it fixed. How much of the roofing you're doing is I'm in amazing distress, or more methodical? We've been talking about it. How big a mix is that?
So it's actually funny you said that, because in our Ithaca market, in our Watertown market, we have a tune. And the tune is, when your roof's in distress, don't second guess, call SOS.
Oh, okay, there we go.
It was a nice little play on words with that.
Yeah.
But I would say America tends to be, and I think I made this comment last time, a bit of procrastinators,
right,
as opposed to addressing the situation beforehand. So 9 out of 10 times, emergency, help me. And then you get the preventive maintenance person that's like, I looked up at my roof and I was just kind of wondering, we've got granule loss, we've got so a couple of shingles lifting a little bit. Do you think it's time?
Mm-hmm. Those are the engineers. Seriously, though, those are the people that probably are wired that way.
Yeah.
Where many are, it's not leaking, Tom. Do I really want to drop that much money on a roof? But the reality is, why should they be ahead of it?
And the reality is, when you look up at your roof and you see, it just doesn't look right. Why hesitate? At least get an estimate, so that way and you can plan for it and be that preventive maintenance person. If it's not leaking just yet, at least you have an idea of what the cost is. It never hurts to get an estimate.
What is hardest on the roofs in our area? What makes a roof fail?
So one of the number one causes, especially in Syracuse, we're surrounded by Sears and Roebuck's homes. And you're familiar with that?
Yeah. Exactly what you're talking about.
It's pretty awesome, because you get to go and see these historic homes, but they're all done the same exact way. There's no ventilation upstairs, and everyone likes to turn that third story room into like a studio,
right, and
they insulate it improperly. So what happens is you have massive ice buildup on these houses, because they can't get the cold air into the upstairs attic, because it's their kids' playroom now. And it just destroys the eaves of their houses, and just it's so sad to see, because they're such beautiful homes,
So the house we lived in the city, first married in the late 80s, stopped looking at me about making that room into something, which we did exactly what you said. Exactly what you said. But I never explained ventilation, because to me it's like, why would I want cold air running through here? What's the point of it? What is that whole ventilation thing? I hear it, but I don't understand it.
So when we talk about ice damming is a major frequency in upstate New York, without a doubt. The people don't seem to think, or they don't understand, your attic needs to be ambient temperature, which means the same temperature as outside. So when they go up there, they're like, oh man, it's really cold up here. I should probably heat it up.
Right.
Well, that heat creates snow melt on your roof. The snow melt goes to your eaves, and then at your eaves it refreezes, and that's what gives ice damming. So if you have a house that has a ton of snow on it, that's great. You want that. If you have a house that has no snow on it, and all your neighbors' houses have snow all over, that means you have giant heat loss, and it needs to be addressed, and your ventilation definitely needs to be addressed.
All right, let's Dave from SOS Roofing. Let's talk a little bit more right after the break. Phone numbers. You need a roof quote? 748-0623. Is that a good number?
That is.
748-0623. It's SOSRoofingNewYork.com. But hold on, right after the break, we'll ask a few more questions, okay?
Sounds good.